What's up, Geeks and Gamers? Mike and I are back from the multiverse once again to give you our spicy review for Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse, which is about Miles Morales, who catapults across the multiverse, where he encounters a team of spider people charged with protecting its very existence. When the heroes clash on how to handle a new threat, Miles must redefine what it means to be a hero. Or so apparently the movie goes. So we have a lot to get into with all this because this movie has a lot. There's a lot going on here, and Mike and I might have some varying opinions about this movie because I haven't even really given Mike my thoughts about the movie yet or anything, but I saw that he wasn't the biggest fan. So Mike, tell me what are your initial thoughts about Across the Spider-Verse?
Yeah, I mean the positives right off the way. I know this art style isn't for everybody, but most people can really appreciate it. The style in this movie is beautiful. This movie is gorgeous, and I think it elevates itself above the first movie in that aspect. There's different because there's so many different spider characters in here. Spider-Man in here, you have like old schools like Scarlet Spider, and you have Ben Riley and all this stuff. They all have the art style that they were drawn in like in the comic books, and so they walk around in that art style, and that's really awesome. Kind of like Spider-Ham, he's like cartoon, but not as corny. Like there's actually some gorgeous art styles in here. The movie plays on that a lot, and I really enjoyed that part of it. The music is awesome. The action set pieces are crazy and really, really, really cool. Lots of web slinging action, all of that. But to me, honestly, the movie suffered kind of a death by a thousand cuts. There's a lot of little things that they throw in this movie that just grate on you after a while with what they're doing, because it's like for every cool awesome plot line about Miles and what he's going through as a character, there's like another smaller plot line where somebody's complaining about capitalism, or you have another there's like all these little things throughout the movie, and there's like I'll say there's a character in here who's supposed to be playing like a British anarchist, like punk rock character, but because they're like modern day, it doesn't really work. It just sounds like they're complaining about a bunch of things that everybody already complains about. It's like it's not counterculture. It just feels like annoying more than anything to me. I wasn't really a huge fan of the character. Yeah, so I don't know, man. It just feels like a kind of a lot of the elevation and a lot of things that they did better this time around. They also did a bunch of things worse that were just annoying to me, that irritated me enough to take me out of the film. Also, the plot's kind of all over the place. I know we said there's a lot going on, but it's like you don't even see Miles for the first like 15 minutes of the movie. Miles doesn't even show up for the first 15 minutes. So they're establishing this other story, which is good. It's a good story. It's fine. But then they get into Miles' story, and then they get into this other character's story. And this other character shows up, and they get into their story a little bit. And then this other character shows up, and they get into their character's story. And then by the end, everybody has like all these different plot threads that are kind of dangling that don't really all connect at all. And they kind of like force them all connect at the end. I don't know, man. It was just, for me, it was kind of disappointing. I expected a lot more from them with how good I thought the first one was. So, yeah. That's my initial feel on it.
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree with that, as far as like the visual aspect of this film, it's incredible. Like,
yeah,
it was just like eye candy the entire time, which was really cool to see. I mean, that was kind of similar to what the first film was. I actually didn't even see the first one in theaters, so getting to see this one in theaters was really cool. And it was pretty spectacular, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, there was definitely some things that I didn't like. You can tell there's a lot of like subtle little messages that were trying to be pushed in the film and stuff. I totally agree with that. I personally, I thought that I was definitely like hooked throughout the entire film with what was going on and stuff. Yeah, it was really chaotic and stuff, but I thought that kind of worked with kind of the whole, I guess, theme of the film, of it being like this huge Spider-Verse thing going on and stuff, and all these different frayed universes, and trying to keep it all together. And you can tell that it's all kind of like dangling by a string in a lot of ways and stuff. And so I thought that was kind of really well played in the film. Miles Morales, I thought that they did a really good job especially in the first half of the film with kind of developing his character more and stuff. And Gwen Stacy also got kind of a bigger role. Spider-Gwen got kind of a bigger role in this film as well, which I'm a pretty big fan of Spider-Gwen, so I thought that was pretty cool as well. The ending of the film though was there's a lot of controversy about the ending, and I can't really get into why, but it's definitely wasn't an ending that I don't think any of us were really expecting.
Yeah.
And some people are gonna love it, like me. Like I was like, when I saw the ending, I was like, okay, that's pretty ballsy. I kind of respect that. And then there's other people that were not a big fan of the ending, like Mike. So
oh, that's the direction you decided to go with this. Gotcha. All right, good luck with that. And then I will say this. I told Josiah this. The theater I was in specifically, when they got to the end, there was a lot of groans. There was a lot of people that were like, oh, and like, what and stuff. So, that's part of it. There was like a couple little kids in the theater that were like upset about it. Like, they were like, what is going on? Like little kids. And I was like, wow, this is kind of nuts that you guys are kind of mad about this. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. Other movies have been like that. I guess I just wasn't prepared for what they were trying to do with it. And like you said, without spoiling it, you guys, if you're curious, you'll have to go see it yourself. I will say this. One other thing I really liked about this movie, it's probably one of my favorite aspects of the movie, was Miguel O'Hara, Spider-Man 2099. Yeah, he's played by Oscar Isaac. He's actually pretty great. Like, they try to play him as kind of this like this figure. He's like kind of good, kind of bad, or whatever. He's got some mystery around him, but he's actually pretty awesome. And he's also kind of the leader of the Spider-Verse, and they kind of make that obvious. Why you get to see very quickly why he's the leader of the Spider-Verse. But yeah, there's some weird things also. And this is maybe not the elephant in the room, but it was one of these ones for me. And I will say this is probably one of the biggest detractions from the film. They have Spider-Woman in this movie, and she is pregnant, and literally her costume is just a leather jacket and yellow goggles. And she is a massive part of this movie. She is in a lot of scenes in this movie, and it is very distracting because they immediately address that she's pregnant. And then they go on to have these action sequences where she's riding on a motorcycle and jumping off of things. At one point, she gets thrown into a moving vehicle. And I'm like, you're pregnant. That's not what pregnant people do. And they're like, well, I'm a spider person. You're like, what? Also, and I'm being a nitpicky with this. But this is my thing. When you get to the Spider-Verse, obviously there's a lot of crazy different characters. Characters like Spider-Ham and things. You see these different characters that are spider people, and you're like, oh wow, that's nuts. There are a lot of fat spider people.
Oh my goodness, yes.
They address earlier in the movie, a character goes, I don't have to work out because I got spider powers, and it made my body super ripped and jacked, and so I don't even have to work out. And then you go to the Spider-Verse, and there are so many fat spider people.
Yes.
And they're just massive guts. They're not even different body types. Like, it's one thing if it's like a sumo wrestler spider, and you're like, oh, okay, they're just fat.
Yeah.
And they're just like, yeah, that totally makes sense. And I'm like, well, it kind of makes sense during some of the action sequences why they're not capable of doing certain things, because it's just like, I get they were trying to go for like anybody can be a spider person. I'm like, yeah, but if you get bit by a radioactive spider and you're scrawny and it gives you muscle, you'd think if you were fat, it'd make you a little skinnier. But no, apparently you just have a massive gut. There's one character, and a lot of people may notice them right away. There's a character that is like extremely obese that they show in the movie at one point, and they make a point of stopping and letting you see this character, and then they like get into like a suit of spider armor, and I'm like, yeah, but you still got to like move around, and like you're very fat. Like, I like, it's not like I'm skinny or anything, but it's just so obvious, like that they're trying to go for this body positivity thing that it does kind of detract a little bit from like. The coolness of the spider characters. But
there's definitely a lot of those kind of like subtle messages that were sprinkled throughout the film that definitely detracted a lot from it for me too. I mean, there was a lot of moments where I just rolled my eyes and was like, okay, this is just ridiculous. What's going on here? Obviously people know about some of the controversies that we saw even from the trailer of like subtle messages and signs and stuff that were put into it just from the trailers and stuff.
Yeah.
And they definitely pushed it even further, even beyond that, with some of the other stuff that they did in this film. And that is definitely a big negative for me as well. You can tell that it felt like in a lot of ways like Lord and Miller kind of wanted to push it into more of a woke direction, but they didn't want to have a backlash with it, kind of like with they wanted to still keep it kind of consistent with what they did with the first one and stuff.
Yeah.
And so, you know, there's definitely a bit of a conflict there in the film because of that. So some of the characters I thought were pretty good. Some I wasn't a big fan of. The thing that I probably appreciated the most about the film was before Miles Morales got into the Spider-Verse and all that stuff, and it was just kind of like him and his family and kind of that whole dynamic and stuff. I thought that for the most part that was pretty well done in the film.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and even just going back to like some of Lord of Miller's other stuff as well, like the one about like the robots and stuff. What was that called? Something about the machines. It was a film that was on Netflix.
I don't remember.
Yeah, it was, but that movie was really well done and stuff too, and the family dynamic of that was really well done. So, but you know, overall, it's really tough to say because, to be honest, like I think that just from a visual standpoint, I think that this film is worth seeing in theaters. But you know, I know that this film is not going to be for everyone. So that's kind of where I stand on it, I guess. I would say that for the most part, if you want a visually stunning film, I think that it's worth checking out in theaters. If that doesn't mean much to you, then I would say just skip it.
Yeah, I will. It's they threaded a weird line with this, honestly. And, you know, I would say visually, yes, it deserves to be in theaters. There's also an attention to detail in Spider canon where they kind of address the fact that certain things have to happen to be Spider-Man. They kind of do away with anybody could be Spider-Man, and it's more like as long as you go through these very specific things that happen in your life, then you can be a Spider-Man. You know, like, and I kind of like that. You know, that they address that. They kind of address some of the controversy of like, oh well, a multiverse means anybody can be Spider-Man. It's like not necessarily, and I dig that part of that. But overall, like, yeah, it's a mixed bag. I would say if you're a fan of the first one, if you love the first one, you'll probably love this one. You know, you may notice some things if you're really like burned out on superhero movies, or you're like, I'm not really that big of a Spider-Man fan. Maybe wait to rent it and watch it, you know, at home. But you know, if you're looking for something to watch in the theaters, it's worth a watch. Probably one of the best things showing this weekend. But yeah, if you were apprehensive about this movie probably won't win you over. And if you're really excited about this movie, you'll probably have a great time. And then the ending will be kind of the kicker, whether or not I think it'll either sell it for you or it won't. And for me, it didn't personally sell it for me. So that's kind of where I'm at on it. Yeah.
I will say, going into this movie, I was not excited about it, and I thought that it was going to be, honestly, I had very low expectations for this film, and my expectations were far surpassed by this film, at least as far as that goes. So, but yeah, so let us know in the comments below if you've seen this film, what you think about it, and hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure that you go check out the website geeksandgamers.com. Thank you so much for watching this review, and we'll talk to you all in another video very soon.